Hi everyone, this is Sanjana from Mockat, and today is an important day because the CAT scorecards have just come out. So I hope that you've done well and definitely start off on the WAT-PI preparation if you're expecting calls from IIMs or other top B schools. Do subscribe to our channel in case if you haven't, because along with news, we're going to bring about a lot more content on what is the important news for the year, what are your interview questions that you should be preparing for depending on your profile, what are the B schools that you should look to apply to based on your percentile, and a whole lot more. And if you're preparing for CAT 2024, this is absolutely the right time to start. We're going to be bringing about a lot of content and definitely use this series to be updated on the news and ace your VAT and PI in the next year. So the important headlines for today include India's exports, which face a shortfall of 4 to 5 billion, and we'll understand why and what can be done here. Next, Flipkart is in talks to raise 1 billion, out of which 60% is going to come from Walmart. We'll also look at how the Indian economy is doing and some key takeaways from papers published by the RBI and the IMF. Now, Sony and Z have 30 days to complete their $10 billion merger. This is something which is important for anybody from a commerce background, anybody who has anything to do with Viscom, entertainment, or for those of you who are going to mention watching OTT in your interests. And lastly, India is planning to eliminate coal imports by 2026. India's exports face a shortfall of 4 to 5 billion dollars. This is primarily because of the trade curbs which the government has brought in wheat, rice and sugar. And this has been done to ensure that the prices remain stable, inflation is controlled, and people within India have access to these essential food items. The other thing which is impacting this is the Red Sea attacks by Yemen's Houthi group. What's happening is India exports a lot of rice to Egypt as well as to multiple European countries. And this Red Sea, which also impacts the shipping route through the Suez Canal, is having a major impact. Now, while the government may explore alternative routes, if you want to know more about this key issue, we actually covered it in yesterday's news. This is all, the link to the playlist is in the description as well. So definitely check it out. The news on mockat.com is also something which is there in the description as well as the first pinned comment. So you can go through more of this, especially those of you from a commerce background or anything to do with shipping, logistics, transportation, etc. However, aside from these items, exports are growing at 4%, and the government does feel that we'll be able to make up for this shortfall. The primary contributors to exports include meat, dairy, fruits and vegetables, as well as cereal. Flipkart is in talks to raise $1 billion, of which 600 million is going to come in through Walmart. Flipkart wants to raise this 1 billion to expand its operations, strengthen its supply chain and bolster its tech as well. Walmart, which currently has 80.7% stake in Flipkart, has already confirmed that they will be putting up 600 million, and this money itself will come at a valuation which is 5 to 10% higher than the valuation at which they previously raised funds, which was around $33 billion. The remaining 400 million is expected to come in from internal as well as external stakeholders, and Flipkart has already announced that they might look to raise more funds next year, and it's not that they are going to be coming up with an IPO. They're still going to look at similar funding routes only. And this itself is crucial because this year there's been what is called a funding winter for startups. Again, there's a lot that we've covered in mockat.news. Please do click on the link in the description and the first pinned comment. But essentially what's happened is this year, because of the global economy being slower, the amount of investments that has come in globally has been low, and it has been low in India as well. So Flipkart bringing in $1 billion is actually very good news and will boost the stats for India as well. In the next news, let's understand more about how the economy is doing. Primarily, we are referring to papers by RBI and IMF. Now, the IMF says that the Indian economy is resilient, but we can't afford to lower our guard. They've especially commended India on a robust economic growth. The GDP has grown at 7.7%. IMF has predicted that it will grow at 7% from now on, but that again is a very good number. In addition, they feel that our financial sector has been resilient, and we've done considerable progress in formalization as well as digital infrastructure. The growth in GDP will also be supported by manufacturing as well as housing. And they've mentioned that capex or capital expenditure is something which will especially help drive manufacturing. The RBI has mentioned that inflation is expected to reduce or be handled, and the main thing is going to be handling food inflation, which is the one which has been more volatile. They've also cautioned that there might not be rate cuts which will come in, given that the inflation is extremely important to manage. In other takeaways, tax collections have been robust this year, and while divestment is expected to be lower, which is the money that the government gets by stake sale in any public sector units, so that's expected to be lower. Having said that, the government is definitely committed to fiscal consolidation, and that's something especially where the tax collections and other alternative revenue sources will play a key role. Coming to Sony and Z, they are planning to merge, and their merger will come up with a $10 billion entity. But they have about a month or exactly 30 days to close this merger for the Indian operations based on the agreement that they had set up in 2021. Once this merger comes through, Sony will own a little over half, 50.86% share. Z will own 3.99% share, and the rest will be with public shareholders. And like I said, this timeline itself was agreed to in their 2021 merger pact that they had signed. However, Z is now looking for an extension. Another point of contention is who's going to be the CEO of the merged entity. Z wants their CEO to be the CEO, but then there are regulatory probes going on against him, which is what is making Sony vary. So while this is also mentioned in the 2021 merger pact, this is one more thing which needs to be decided. Lastly, India is planning to eliminate coal imports by 2026. It's important to understand that we are not looking to eliminate usage of coal. In fact, the Union Minister for Coal and Mines, that's Mr. Prahlad Joshi, he stated that we will be dependent on coal for the next 30 to 40 years to ensure that there's energy security, which is to say that energy is something, or access to energy is something which is available to the entire population. There's not much fluctuations and things like that. However, he said that the government is working to zeroize coal imports. Now, the coal imports have already come down from 26% in 2019-20 to somewhere around 21% now, but they've set a very ambitious target. They want to import only 2% of our total coal next year, and by 25-26 they want to zeroize it. They want to get it completely to zero. So some of the things which they are doing for this, there are coal blocks existing as well as new ones which are being auctioned primarily in MP and Chhattisgarh. The auction process already started for 26. There are 5 to 7 more which are there. A lot of the details are there in the news article itself, which will be listed for you. And they're also bringing in a single window clearance system, which will actually fast track the clearances and the necessary approvals. So that's it for today's news. Do subscribe and like this if you're finding this helpful, and all the best to you for your WAT and interview prep.